guys, welcome to Math Lesson 3.7, fifth grade Everyday Math. Today we're going to work on a few different things, but mainly it's going to work around fractions. So we're going to talk about a couple of different things with it, and it's going to get kind of tricky, and I'm going to warn you now. However, stay with me and it'll be a lot better, I promise. Okay? Just try to focus and try to think about the way that I'm teaching you, and think about fractions a little differently. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by doing some mental math addition. First thing I want you to do, I'm going to write it on my board. You think about it in your head. 1/2 plus 1/4 less than 1. Is that true or false? If you said true, you're right. The way that I know this is because 1/2, 1/4 is smaller than 1/2. So 1/2 plus something smaller than it is going to be smaller than 1. What if I did this? 1/2 minus 1/4 is bigger than 1/2. What do you think? That one's going to be false. The reason why is because if I start with 1/2 and I take away something, it's not going to be bigger. It's going to be smaller because I'm taking away. Let's try another one. 3/4 plus 1/2 is smaller than 1. What do you think? That is not true. The way that you can think about this is 3/4 is definitely bigger than 1/2. Plus 1/2 is definitely going to be bigger than 1. So this kind of goes hand in hand with what we're doing in our lesson today. So today in our lesson, we're going to talk about how we can use, it's called benchmarks to use our estimates, to write sums and estimates, okay? What that means is comparing against something. So if I have 0 and 1, and here's 1/2. Think about if I say the number 7/8. Well, I know that 4/8 is half. So 7/8 is going to be really close. It's going to be about here. About. It's an estimate. What about if I said 7/12? 7/12. Think about where half would be. What's half of 12? 6. So 7/12 would be about right here. So the numerator might be the same, but the denominator is different. So thinking about fractions like this with a benchmark helps you kind of order the fractions and put them in order from smallest to largest, or whatever you may need to do. Okay? So we're going to do an activity today where we need to figure out if an answer is smaller than 1, larger than 1, where it would need to go. Okay? Right now, you are not in your math workbook. We're going to be on page 88 in just a moment, but for now, I want you to see if you can do this. What if I did 4/12 plus 3/12? 4/12 plus 3/12. What is my answer? If you said my answer is 7/12, you are correct. So what I want you to do is on this top line right here, I want you to mark where 7/12 would go. Think about 12ths. We already kind of did it. Think about 12ths. What's half of 12? So is it closer to the 0, the half, or the 1? If I were marking 7/12, I would put an X right here, because it's bigger than a half, but not by much. Half would be 6/12. Okay? Now, we're going to do a little bit more practice with this. So we're going to go through a couple more questions, and I'm going to have you try to figure out where they would be on my number line. All right, so we're going to start with number A. I want you to think in your head, and I want you to do this math in your head. We're going to add 1/2 plus 4/5. 1/2 plus 4/5. Wherever you think that answer might go, put a dot and put A. Think about it. We have an entire number line, 1/2 plus 4/5. Well, when I think of 4/5, I know that that is really close to a whole, right? So 1/2 plus 4/5. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about, okay, here's 1/2. That's where that would be. And if I have 4/5, this would be a whole, so it's a little bit less than a whole. So if it were me, I would put my dot about right here, and I would say that is A. 4/5 plus 1/2. It's bigger than 1, but smaller than 1.5. That's using benchmarks. We're going to do a few more samples. You're actually going to do B, C, D, and E. You're going to do 4 more samples with me. All right, for problem B, you're going to do a story problem, and I'm going to read it out loud to you. So my friend Jake mowed lawns for about 1.5 hours on Saturday. I'm sorry, 1/3. My bad. Rewind. 1/3 of an hour on Saturday and 1 3/4 of an hour on Sunday. So 1/3 and 1 3/4. Total, how long was he mowing the grass? Wherever you think your estimate should be, put a dot and mark it with the letter B as in boy. When you are done, come back, hit pause. All right, you should have hit pause. When I look at this problem, I think of 1 3/4 as definitely bigger than 1.5. So it's going to be about right here. And then 1/3 is a little smaller than a half. So 1 3/4, and then about 1/3 is going to put me a little bit bigger than 2. A little bit bigger than 2. So I'm going to go about right here is where I would put my letter B as in boy. About right there is my B as in boy. All right, let's look at number 3. Let's look up for letter C. For letter C, here you go. Martin has 2.5 yards of fabric. He used 7/8 of a yard of fabric to make a pillow. How many yards does he have left? And we're going to label that C. So if he used it, am I going to add or subtract? I'm going to subtract. So think about that. 2.5 minus 7/8. Figure out what your answer would be, hit pause, and come back when you're done. All right, using benchmarks. I know that 2.5 is a really easy benchmark because it's right here. 7/8 is close to 1. It's a little smaller than 1, so I'm not going to take a whole away, but it's really close. So if I start at 2.5, I'm going to go back a whole, and then I said it's a little bit smaller than a whole. So I'm actually going to put it right here. About there is where I would put my C. That's how you would do that one. Let's do D. Emma ran 2 1/4 mile. Stacy ran 1/2 mile. How many miles did they run all together? All together. Find your answer and label it D. Find your answer, label it D. Go. Pause the video, get it done, and come back when you're done. All right, if I were labeling this D, I know that 2 1/4, it's not quite 2.5, but it's close. Add a half to it, that's definitely going to put it over a half. So 2 1/4 is about there. There's my 1/2. It's going to be about right here. That's where I would put my letter D. Awesome. And our last one for this part, we're going to do a little bit more later on, but here we go. This is for sample E. So Carson has a piece of wood that is 3 feet long. Okay. If she used 2 13 over 16 feet, How much does she have left? So think about this problem. Am I going to add or subtract? She started with 3. She used 2 and 13/16. What do you think? Pause the video, try to figure out where it would go on the number line, and come back when you are done. All right, here we go. The way I would do this, I would start with 3. That's a benchmark. 2 minus 2, great. So now I'm at 1. Now look at 13/16. Think about it. If 16/16 make a whole, that's almost a whole. That means I'm going to subtract almost all of that 1. Okay, here we go. There's 1, 2, and then almost a whole. So I'm going to go about here. That is letter E. That is where you're going to put your numbers. So using a number line to help you is important. Using the benchmarks is important. Yes, there are other ways to do this. You can find a lot of different ways to subtract fractions. But sometimes using an estimate is going to help you. Because if I say we're doing this last problem we just did, and I told you that she had 5 feet left when she only started with 3 feet, you would know that I was wrong, right? If I said she had 2.5 feet left, you would also know that I'm wrong because she already used 2 out of the 3. So using estimates is going to help you because it's going to help you figure out if your answer is reasonable or not. This goes along with our lessons that we've learned already earlier this week, making sure that your answers make sense with the question that's being asked, making sure that they're reasonable. Number 1, this is estimating the sum or difference of a fraction number story. Place an X on the number line to represent your estimate and then circle the best answer. All right, Mariah bought 1 1/3 pounds of grapes and 1.5 pounds of bananas. So 1 1/3 is about here. 1.5 pounds of bananas, okay? So this is where we start. How many pounds of fruit did she buy? So I'm adding them all together. So here's 1 1/3. And then I'm going to add 1 whole and about a half. So I'm going to be about right here. That's going to be my estimate. About how much did she buy? About 2 pounds? Well, it's definitely bigger than 2. About 2.5? I mean, 1.5 plus about 1. Or about 3. That's not close to a half yet. If it were me, I would say it was about 2.5 pounds. How did I figure that out? 1 1/3 is close to 1. 1.5 is close to 1 1/2. 1 1/2 plus 1 equals 2 1/2. That's what you're going to do. You're going to look at each fraction, figure out what it's closest to, and then go from there. Chloe has 2.5 yards of fabric. She will use about 3/8 to make a scarf. About how many yards of fabric will she have left? So will she have left means I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to start with my reasoning. 2 1/2 is close to 2 1/2. I'm going to keep it 2.5. 3/8 is close to, what is 3/8 close to? Is that closer to 0, 1.5, or 1? It is closer to 1/2. It is closer to 1.5. Half of 8 is 4, so it's really close. And then 2 1/2 minus 1/2 equals 2. So my answer should be about 2 yards. It's about 2 yards. I would say it's about right here. I would say it's about right there. About-ish right there. All right. Number 3, the perimeter of a triangle is 10 inches long. Remember, perimeter is outside edge. So if I have a triangle, the outside edge is about 10 inches. One side is 3 9/16. Another side is 4 5/8. About how many inches long is that third side? All right, when I look at this one, 3 9/16 is close to 3.5. So 3.5. 4 5/8. 5/8 is close to a half as well. So 4 5/8 is close to 4.5. So 3 plus 4 is 7, plus a half is 8. So the last side is about 1 inch long. So this tells you my reasoning, and it also tells you my answer. That's how I would do that problem. All right, you guys are going to use the benchmarks to help you out. So one of the tools that I gave you in your slides for the day is going to be, there's a couple of different games that you're going to do and a couple different things that you're going to use. One of the things is going to be a fractions bar, and I'm going to show you that. Give me just a second. All right, this is technically with lesson 3.9, but I'm going to go ahead and attach it today so you guys can see it. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see a little bit more. All right, so what you can do with this is you can actually look and figure out where a fraction might be compared to 0, 1, and 2. So if I look at the number, let me see, 8/10, I can look right here and see 8/10 is right here. That is closer to 1 than it is to 1/2. And so you can compare the fractions compared to 1/2 on this chart. I do suggest if you can print this out just so you can use it, that is fine. If you need copies of this, just try to print it from here. And then another option for you is in your math workbook, the very back cover has this page. It's your fraction number line poster. So if you don't want to print this, that's okay. You can use that very back page to help you out. Another final thing that you can use is you can look at the fraction cards or the fraction circle pieces. They are also in the very, very back of your book. So the fraction circle pieces are already colored for you. It helps you figure out halves, fourths, thirds. Basically, all the fractions that you're going to need are all in here. Okay, so use what you have to help you out. Okay? All right, have a great day. Make sure you're getting all of your work done. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, and I will see you later. Bye.